So, everybody wants to be chosen. Everybody wants to have a family,
Everybody wants to belong.
Yeah, and that's kind of the DNA that we drove into the bridge, I think, that Rick started with, 16 years ago.
Yeah, and the No More Fatherless initiative does that same thing.
The Church of Living Hope, that's where we met Rick Howerton, up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And it was great.
But then Rick left Living Hope to move down to Nashville.
Yeah.
And before long, on that Palm Sunday, he came to ask us, Scott and Marianne, would you all like to go down to Spring Hill, to Tennessee, and help start a church?
Yeah.
And, the first thought was, well, how could we ever possibly do that?
Yeah, by then I'd been out of work for a year. Had transitioned into a full-time commission
real estate
for 6 or 7 months, so that it really was kind of impossible at that point.
Yeah. But then God worked it out, and tell about that piece of property that we had that all of a sudden turned into God's plan.
That was kind of wild. We were working with a mentor in real estate. We were working together on that project where we had found 30 acres, and so we turned that into a subdivision. We were getting ready to start build out a subdivision, and when we did, Rick kind of came right there at the end of that and then asked us to come down and start the bridge. But at that time, we didn't have any money to do that with. So that next week, literally that next week, a builder came in and said that he wanted to buy the entire project. And that allowed us to come down and really help start. Have a fresh start. It was good seed money, wasn't it?
All of a sudden, what was impossible, God showed us wasn't impossible. That financial part was sort of taken care of, but then it had to become a heart thing, because you were ready to go before I was.
Yeah.
I was still very tied to the family that we had grown with there at Living Hope, and just the idea of change, I just wasn't ready for that.
And it was funny, because if you think about it, after God showed up in that big way, you'd think we'd have jumped at the chance to go. But it was still quite scary.
Yeah, it was very scary. Even though you could see God's hand in it, it still required that stepping out on our part.
Yeah.
There were still so many challenges there at the beginning, because Spring Hill had no public buildings that we could even go into. So while we were searching for the first place to land, we ended up in our house up in Franklin.
Right across the street from Rick and Julie.
Right across the street from Rick and Julie. And I was thinking about this furniture the other day. We got this when we moved into that house, when we first moved down here to start the church.
Yeah.
So this furniture right here was the furniture that the bridge really started on, in our living room with that staff that Rick had pulled together.
Yeah, we started as a small group in a living room.
In our living room.
How appropriate is that? Because that's still what the bridge is about. Connecting in groups.
Most churches start out with a pastor, his wife, who knows how to play the piano or the organ, and then she can also teach Sunday school, right?
Yeah.
So voila, they've got a staff. They're ready to start church. Rick wanted to instead pull together some staff first. He pulled that together to have a better basis, strong basis for a church, I think.
Yeah, and that's where we started there in Oakview with that staff. It was
that very first school, that very first day, February 29th of 04.
Of 04, wondering, is anybody going to show up? You just don't know.
But remember carrying everything in every day. I remember children's toys that we had to carry in.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All the curriculum. But that's a lot of what Columbia does right now, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat going down there and seeing that again. But anyway, so we moved out of Oakview after about 6 months, and we go down to Chapman's Retreat, and they were wonderful. They were a great group for us to lock in with and partner with in the church. And we were there for 3 or 4 years and kept looking for places to move into, as a church. Where could we find a location? One location we tried to buy 2 different times, and both times God closed the door on us. But just knowing that God closed the door twice on that, and when we didn't see it, it just seemed heartbreaking,
Yeah.
But at the same time, then we opened the door for the warehouse to be able to lease that space and really kind of create that space for ourselves. We designed it ourselves. Goodness knows we had kids taking out buckets of dirt and concrete and all kind of things. And then God, as we continued to grow in that space, it was obvious that we were really needing a different location to get to. And I think Craig was the one that found the location that we're in now.
And I can't wait to get into the new building.
I know.
New section of the new building.
Exactly, and you know, it's just going to allow us to, not really to settle in, but to really kind of launch again.
And you remember the No More Fatherless when we first started talking about that?
Yeah.
That was really...
It was kind of the culmination of where we had already been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had already, you know, even before we moved into our warehouse location, we had donated monies and some people had gone on mission to help build church down in, I think it was Guatemala. Now with the No More Fatherless, we've got the Berries down in Central America, and we're coming alongside them and what they're doing and planting churches. So.
Yeah. So God was already kind of working here and working there, and you know, we had so many young families in the church.
Oh my gosh,
What was it? The average age was like 25, and then they had 6 children apiece.
6 kids, yeah.
And, you know, and started looking, and there was a lot of adoptions and a lot of foster care happening in our church too. So, so I think the overarching umbrella, calling it No More Fatherless, is excellent. You know, the pregnancy center, the adoption care and help.
Sure. The initial vision that Rick had of 10,000, you know, wanting to see 10,000 souls saved through efforts that the bridge made. I mean, it just kind of all,
planted.
Yeah, it all kind of culminates and wraps up really well in the No More Fatherless initiative. Yeah, and it's great because I couldn't be at the pregnancy center and I can't go to Central America, but I can, through my tithes and offerings, I can give and be a part of what's going on and be a part of the mission here at the bridge.
Right.
And oh my gosh, what a journey it's been already.
Yeah, and every year that we take what used to be called Gift for Christ at Christmas offering, but is now the No More Fatherless offering, the idea to give your best gift this year to Christ. And so that his work can continue on and on and on. And I think this is a good place to do that. But that's kind of the DNA of the bridge.
It is.
From the beginning.
That is so true, you know. It fits the DNA of what we have already been doing for so long, for 16 years. And yet, it still feels like it's just the beginning.